live from the Dunkin Latte Lounge.
It's Shelly Rome in our virtual Dunkin Latte Lounge with, I think he has many titles. It's hard to really box him in. Singer, songwriter, producer, filmmaker. Latest EP is called Cry Havoc from Austin, Texas. Welcome, Mobley. Hi.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Of course. Thanks for being here. How are you today? How's it going?
Pretty good. A little cold, but pretty good.
Where are you?
I'm in Chicago right now.
Oh, I was going to complain about New York weather, but I won't even dare.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. So for me personally, when I get introduced to, a new artist, my immediate instinct is to place the artist in like a box or a category or like a genre. It's like my first reaction when I start listening to the music, for me to just take it in and process it and kind of understand what I'm hearing. But one thing that you do is you blur the lines and the genres. Sometimes as humans, we need to define things in order to compartmentalize them in our brains. And I feel like that's so unfair to the creative and so limiting. So in your own words, if you had to talk about yourself as an artist or describe yourself, what would you say?
In terms of genre?
Yeah, just in general, in terms of your music and your creativity, your genre, because that's for us, the listeners. That must be so frustrating for the artist sometimes.
Yeah, it definitely is. I would say, particularly when it comes to music in the United States, genre has a pretty complicated social history. It's been deployed to kind of segregate people and signal more about demography and politics than music a lot of the time. So a few years ago, when I was forced to use genre labels, I started calling my music post-genre pop. So the post-genre part is obvious, and pop not really in the sense of top 40 necessarily, but more kind of popular song, like the tradition of songwriting that emerged from 45 records, like roughly 3.5 minute songs that are accessible and have catchy melodies. But that's really the only thing that I would kind of consider a creative constraint when I sit down to write a song or to make a project. I like pop songs in the broad sense, but other than that, I write all kinds of music and enjoy all kinds of music.
It's so crazy that the word pop has turned into it's meant to be so derogatory, or it's meant to take someone's creativity or credibility away, which is really mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's very strange because basically everybody likes pop. I mean, if you like Metallica, you like pop. Any music that has made it anywhere near the mainstream in terms of popularity is drawing on that songwriting tradition. So yeah, when I say the word, that's what I mean.
I love that. I think that's really cool. Here are some things that I did read about you that that were said about you. Inspiring, introspective. You make people think. I loved this. A message wrapped in pleasure. I thought that was a really great way of putting it. So let's talk about your EP that came out last year, Cry Havoc. Did I say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why my brain just farted for 2 seconds. So I was thinking when I heard Cry Havoc, my brain instantly went wreak havoc. I know what that means. What does Cry Havoc mean?
So it's an allusion to a line from the Shakespeare play Julius Caesar. The full line is cry havoc and let slip the dogs of war. But in the case of my work, I kind of meant to denote a kind of intensity and urgency and frenzy that I wanted the music to have, but also that the story has, because it's the EP kind of serves as an introduction to this character, the character who's on the cover of the record. His name is James Creedmoor, and he, without getting too much into the story, he kind of has this the series of traumatic things happen, and it ends up kind of radicalizing him, and then the record culminates in this this event. He's arrested and imprisoned, and that is going to kind of be the starting point for the album that will be putting out relatively soon, which is a concept album. So yeah, it was meant to kind of refer to the story. Havoc ends up being an important word in the story as it'll continue to unfold, but also to just kind of tee up what I intended to be kind of an intense and I guess emotionally violent almost record.
Is there something in your life that sort of just to sort of simplify what I heard is there something in your life that kind of jolted you, or did you have a moment, or did you, I don't know, go through something that kind of there's a correlation, or it's like a metaphor for something that you experienced and now you're kind of just like a different person, or I don't know, a transformed person?
Yeah, I think it wasn't recent, and I don't know that I was necessarily drawing too much on my own life, but I definitely several years ago kind of had a moment of radicalization around, specifically the kind of inciting event was the killing of Eric Garner, and kind of the popular reaction to that definitely made me kind of revise my worldview and my outlook on some things, and was artistically kind of a turning point as well, in terms of what kind of things I made the focus of my music. But in terms of how that relates to Jacob and the story, I guess there's some of that in there, but his experience is definitely a lot more extreme and personally traumatic than mine was. But yeah, they're not unrelated.
Is it important to you now to just sort of put out purposeful art, or is it just something that's naturally something that you're, I don't know, drawn to? You don't want to just, I mean, we're such in a popcorn era, and obviously people are just, you're an independent artist and people are looking for, that one big hit, or that one big, a hit as far as music, but also just a hit, like a junkie needs a hit. Is it important to you?
Can I use that at some point? That's a good
of course. Is it important to put something out that you relate to first, and then hopefully the world follows suit?
Yeah, I mean, I think I guess there are two pieces to that. In terms of my personal relation to it, I want people to like my music, I want people to enjoy it, but my approach to that has always been that I'm just a regular person, and if I like it, there's probably going to be a bunch of other people that like it too. We grew up breathing the same air and hearing the same music, seeing the same television, reading a lot of the same books. So yeah, the first person, really the only person I'm trying to directly please when I'm making something is myself, but with a kind of confident humility that I'm average enough that if I like it, it's going to be approachable to a bunch of people. But in terms of kind of making purposeful music and parenthetically political music, I'm of the view that whether you intend it to or not, all art has a purpose. It can be utilized, and all art has politics. And so those politics, and this isn't a knock at all, those politics can be let's party, buy this shirt, drive this car, let's get drunk, and there's a time and place for that, certainly. Those politics can be, don't think about anything. I'm not going to mention any ideas that you find uncomfortable or reflect too much of the world back to you. But I think for me, having seen the ways that even art that is very explicit about its politics can be misunderstood and kind of used to do things that are counter to the purposes of the people who make it. And given that we're living in such a tumultuous and high stakes time, I do feel that it's a responsibility, if you're going to be a person getting up on stage and kind of taking up oxygen and taking up attention, you have a responsibility to in some way contribute something to people who can't get on a stage and say the things that people need to hear. So yeah, I guess in that sense, it feels like a duty as much as a compulsion.
Speaking of getting up on stage, you're kind of like a one-man show, right? You kind of do it all. And you're an independent artist, and I know that a big part of marketing and promoting and just getting your music out there is touring and shows. Do you enjoy that side of what you do, and what is a show of yours look like, feel like?
Yeah, it's a very different art form. When I think about it, I often think it's interesting that we kind of wound up in this place where everybody who does one of the things is expected to do the other, because they're such different skill sets, and so kind of experientially different. But yeah, my show is like you said, I'm the only person on stage, so I'm singing, I'm playing keys and guitar and bass and drums and some special instruments that I've created. And there's, video and a light show, and it's a very interactive and high energy show. I think I'm a pretty shy person in normal life, if I'm not being interviewed or singing on stage. And so when I first started playing music live, I kind of had this idea that I would just kind of go up there and not say anything, kind of be withdrawn in myself and play the songs, and that would be it. And I went on my first tour, and that just did not work at all. And so I'd given up my apartment, I quit my job to do it, and it was like, I'm going out here, and if I don't demand their attention, they're not going to pay attention to me, and this is costing me too much for me to let that happen. And so from that point on, I kind of developed this very kind of intense, large stage persona. People who knew me before I started performing are always very surprised to see me on stage and say I seem like a completely different person. So yeah, they're very high energy, high intensity, interactive, high audience participation shows.
Was it a choice to not play up there with a band? Or did it just sort of metastasize that way, or develop that?
Metastasize, wow.
That was probably a strange word to use in that sentence.
It was not a choice. It was not a choice. I used to have a band, and I still really love playing with a band. There were 3 of us, and then one person moved, and I just never found a replacement. And so then it was me and a drummer. So me basically doing all the things I'm doing now, and then somebody on drums. And I had a 2-month tour booked, and my drummer got hurt. And so it was too late to find, it was like a week and a half out, 2 weeks out, and it was too late to find a replacement and have somebody learn the songs. And so I had to decide whether I was either going to drop off the tour, play it acoustic, or come up with something else. And I came up with this one-man show, and basically overnight, the way people understood my show and the reception of it completely changed. And it was a big inflection point in my career. And then, you know, not to be crass, but the economics of being the only person on stage are substantially different. And you know, basically overnight I went from, you know, having a day job to being able to support myself, my family completely with my art. So yeah, it kind of chose me, but I do feel like it suits my personality particularly well. Like I've always made the records basically alone. I've always written the songs and recorded most or all of the instruments on the records. So yeah, now it's the stage is kind of just an extension of that creative process.
That's a super underrated place to be in. I mean, that's incredible that you do all of that. And not only do you do that, but you also direct your videos, right? You edit your videos. I mean, it's pretty amazing that
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Have all those skills. And I think that's the definition of not boxing yourself in, right?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely creates opportunities for this kind of really intense cohesion and integrity across disciplines and kind of throughout the work. When I'm sitting down to write a song, I'm thinking about the song, but I know that I'm going to be the one who makes the video. I know I'm going to be the one who designs the light show for the stage. I know that I'm going to be, you know, doing all these different things. And so the idea of a song for me is now taken on all these extra layers of meaning, which is it's a very fun challenge creatively.
You have, speaking of your creativity, there's a running theme in a few of your videos where you're a talking TV head. What is the significance of that?
Yeah, so that is, and that's part of my show now as well. That's extended to the live show. That comes from the story that the record and the upcoming record are both about. Like I said, the main character ends up being imprisoned for an extremely long time. It's a speculative fiction story. He ends up being imprisoned for something like 250 years in solitary confinement, essentially. And in his kind of attempt to hold on to his sanity, he devises this alter ego in his mind of this TV man who can, you know, he's more or less trapped in his own mind. And so he creates this alter ego whose head is a TV set, and he can change the channel and, you know, kind of beam anything into himself that he wants. And he uses that as a means of kind of coping and a means of escape. And so it's kind of a sad backstory for such a silly looking character, but yeah, that's the story of the TV man.
But I think, I don't know, maybe it's just me, and this is just my opinion as a listener. Maybe that's something that kind of makes your music, while delivering really powerful messages, also captivating and catchy, because I think there's a dichotomy. You're talking about really, you know, humanistic things and real things to you, and important things for the world, but, you know, you're also giving us a show, and, you know, you're putting on a performance, and we're entertained by it as well. Because you danced, and is it the Stay Vogue video? You're like dancing. Did you, you know, you're having fun, like, while still, you know, sharing art that's true to you. I think that's really cool.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think that's important. I think, you know, I don't take myself or my art too seriously. I take the stuff I'm talking about seriously, but I think it's important to keep sight of what, you know, if you want the world to be better, what do you want it to be better for? And it's for people, it's for the people you love, it's for this kind of transcendent moments of pleasure or joy. And so I think it's important to keep sight on those things. And also I just think, you know, singing and dancing are so fundamental to being human. It's weird that we live in a society here in the US where there's kind of, in subcultures it exists, but there's not really any kind of national collective practice around singing and dancing the way that there is in so many other cultures. To the extent we have it, it's like, you know, singing the national anthem, I guess, or like dancing on TikTok, but neither of those really have the kind of I guess, like the kind of visceral weight that you feel when you encounter these other human traditions where people, just regular people, have singing and dancing so deeply ingrained in their understanding of what it is to be a person. But anyway, so yeah, I think that stuff's important.
We're like, oh, if someone's dancing and just having a good time, you know, there's always like judgment around how good of a dancer you are.
Yeah.
You know, it's just there's so many, like, again, boundaries and stipulations, and you can't dance because you're not good at it, and we're gonna laugh at you now. And hey,
Yeah.
maybe I'm a good time, you know.
Yeah.
So you're going to perform for us, or and one of the songs you're going to perform is Lord, and I watched the video to that, and it's literally you in 4 characters. One of them is the talking TV head, and your guitar, and excuse me, but forgive me, I don't remember what you're doing, what the other 2 characters are doing, but it's the band, you know, they're playing instruments. And this was my favorite comment on that video. Someone said most iconic collab of 2022 is Mobley and Mobley and Mobley and Mobley. And I was like, that's just so great.
Yeah, I appreciated that.
I loved that. So I think we should just hand it over to you and just let you do what you do, because I think we're excited now to check this out.
Awesome.
Here's Mobley in our Dunkin' Latte Lounge.
Tired people, fire people, situations, tired people, get your change and find your people. I love my tired people, never spy, finding people, ever wonder why are people mystify, inspire people.
Time to take them high.
Ooh, then all the devils let me show. You gotta tell us where to go. You gotta tell us what to do with the high. If I get my payback, I won't think twice. If we survive, you better hide, better run for your life. It's been lifetimes locked up inside. So if I get my payback, better pray, Lord. Better pray, Lord. Dissipate, don't stay down long. Better pray we don't. Show up with the fire people, with the spotlight people, send it to the fire people, baby, get the fire people, open to the tired people, that's how I can fire to lean on the high ground. If I get my payback, I won't think twice. And if we survive, you better hide, better run for your life. It's been lifetimes locked up inside. come sunken out and half aware. Just point the magnet at me, man, let's get some money, we can make it fair. I could be the call to change your life, 'cause you've been on the run since 95. You're nobody's favorite. You're nobody's favorite. Why? You're nobody's favorite. You're nobody's favorite. Why? You're nobody's favorite. Something cool, say something cool to keep it textual. Well, that's a mood, so what's the move? She's standing next to you. Holy water, or a shot of ginger ale. I've been drinking from wishing well, hoping it'll change my life, but it's not. You're nobody's favorite. Why? You're nobody's favorite. 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 Why? I had a dream this was all lit up, but the luster's fading. I had a dream this was all I want, but the luster's waning. I had a dream this was all lit up. You're nobody's favorite. Why? You're nobody's favorite. You're nobody's favorite. Why? You're nobody's favorite. You're nobody's favorite. Why? They only came to see the park at night. They only brought the torches for the light. They only think we're all just too uptight. And everybody knows they've got the right. Gold passions roaming your factions, no taste for facts. The old days are back, they're not long gone wherever they go. Is this the best time here below? Is this the last time here we go? They don't wanna know to get in the black, get out the black and on with the show. Is this the best time here below? Is this the last time here we go? They don't wanna know to get in the black, get out the black and on with the show.
St. John out of prison. I bought the con man and Mike. They're not long gone wherever they go. Get 'em up! Is this the last time we belong? Is this the last time here we go? They don't want to get out the black, get out the black, not for sure. Is this the last time we belong? Is this the last time here we go? They don't want to get out the black, get out the black, not for sure. Is this the last time we belong? Is this the last time here we go? They don't want to get out the black, get out the black, not for sure. Is this the last time we belong? Is this the last time here we go? They don't want to get out the black, get out the black, not for sure.
That was Mobley in our virtual Dunkin' Latte Lounge. Thank you so much for being here and for performing for us. Before I let you go, I do have a question since we are in our Dunkin' Latte Lounge. If you could have a Dunkin' Latte with anybody in the whole world, who's living, who's passed, who would it be? Who would you want to sit and chat with over some coffee?
I think it would be Octavia Butler. She's probably my favorite fiction writer of all time. Wrote just really incredible, rich and challenging, sci-fi, speculative fiction, and I am endlessly fascinated by the mind that created this stuff. So Octavia Butler would be my pick.
I bet you somebody's watching this going like, I would like to have a latte with him because he sounds really cool. And that I can learn from him as well.
That's sweet of you to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. So Cry Havoc is out now. This EP came out a couple months ago. And as you mentioned, there is a new album on the way, right? That was sort of the setup for this concept album that's coming. Do you want to give us some details? Do you want to share anything, or you want to keep us on our toes?
I think we're all on our toes. This is where I make the music, and I've been working on it every day, but making an album is a long, hard process. So I'll just say it's sounding pretty good so far. So hopefully if you enjoy the music that I've put out, it'll be a bit different from that, but it'll kind of have the same emotional core. So hopefully you'll enjoy it.
Awesome. Thank you. And if you want to shout out just like socials, if you want people to stay in touch with you, you can do that. Or
yeah, you can find me on all the different social media platforms at Mobley Who, MOBLEYWHO, and on my website's mobleywho.com.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate
Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate this.
Totally. Bye. Thank you. That was cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. The album is really cool.
Thank you.
Quite a bit this morning. I'm interested to hear more.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. You are a good interviewer.
Live from the Dunkin' Latte Lounge.